Takes a second. There
Let's
we go.
go.
We are live. All right. Hey, Brian, we are here. Hey, friends, we are broadcasting across the internet. We are all over Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and YouTube, and we are going to have a great conversation. I'm going to introduce Brian Dixon here in just a minute as we get going. But if you can see us, friends, do us a favor, hit the link there in the comments. Let me know you can see me and tell me where you're watching from and what you're doing. We'd love to hear that. And we're gonna have some questions. We'll have room for questions. If you click the link and let Ecamm know that it can put your name up there, I can put your name and your podcast up on the screen. We'd love to actually do that, and so maybe we can help promote your show while we are broadcasting.
Love that. Do that.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Give me some comments and we will do it. There we go. I'll put this down here. All right. There we go. We got Lori. She's in Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, right? The Unlovely Truth. Okay, Brian.
Hey.
Have you ever seen a true crime podcast from a Christian perspective? The Unlovely Truth is that podcast. You need to check it out. So Lori's great. She's awesome.
That's a great niche. I love that.
Totally great. She's a private investigator. Very, very cool. So, all right, friends, go ahead, comment, let us know where you are coming to us from, where you see us. We would love that. And we would love to talk to you. And then again, if you just click the link in the description, it will let us put your podcast up here. So we can do it. All right, Brand, here's how this works, by the way. We'll give a few minutes for people to kind of jump on and see us, and then we'll start a live recording of the Christian Podcaster, and we'll talk to everybody talking about what you're doing with the Hope Story Conference. And then we'll take some questions after that. Sound good? So we'll try to do that.
What's the oldest book you've read in the last 30 days, 60 days?
Ooh, I'm working on a book right now that somebody sent to me called I Dare You. Have you ever seen this book?
No.
Okay, it's I think William Danforth, who wrote it. It's kind of it's in the vein of Napoleon Hill, kind of like that.
Yeah.
And his basic premise is, hey, I dare you to be like all that you can be, that God has created you to be. It's this little book, and it's got a little cult following. People will get it and they'll read it, and then they'll pass the book on, and it's kind of got this thing that is good. It comes out of Missouri. Okay, story with the book though. I got to tell one more thing, and then I'll ask you the same question. My grandfather gave me this book. He had it in his collection. And he gave it to me, asked me to read it when I was like 17 or something, 17-year-old Eric was not going to read that book. I did eventually. I think I thumbed through it, and maybe I skimmed it would be a more appropriate word than reading. And I gave it back to him, but it's got a long history. So how about you? What's the oldest book you've read recently?
I've been going through the classics. I've realized that if you want to make an impact today, sometimes you need to read a book from yesterday and not a book from today. Mm-hmm. And the one that I actually found this at an estate sale in our neighborhood. So the guy who owned it passed away. So it's like passing on this old book by Dale Carnegie. It's called Public Speaking and Influencing Men. Mm. And I'm looking for one. It was published in 1915. And it became, check this out, it became the curriculum for the YMCA.
Wow.
Did you know the YMCA was called the Young Man's Christian Association?
I did. Yeah, that's their whole.
And they gave out this book on how to be a public speaker and how to lead men. And I was amazing. Like, what? The YMCA?
Yeah. Right.
Because the YMCA is where like old people go to swim.
But they've got a long history. Okay, so I'm just going to make one point while we're bringing people in here. All right, friends, go ahead and comment. Let me know where you're at. Tell me about your podcast. I'll put you up on the screen. We got a few others, by the way. This is the thing, man. There are a lot of organizations. The church has done so much good over the last 2 millennia, really. But there are so many institutions like the YMCA, that we really don't. We need to give some a little bit of respect to. I'll be honest with you. You started an organization. I've started an organization. Yeah. One of the reasons I did it is with an eye to what happens not just now in the next few decades while I'm working on it, but what happens in 100 years or 200 years
Yep.
as well. I think we got to take the long view. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna check that out from Florida. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
you
very
can get it
cool.
on Amazon for $5.90.
There we go. That's
Public
that.
Speaking and Influencing Men in Business, it's called.
Love
But
it.
here's the cool thing. In the back of the book, it has a short version of two classic books, and one of them is called Acres of Diamonds, which is one of my favorite books of
Oh
all
yeah,
time. And it has the public speech version of Acres of Diamonds. So Dale Carnegie, as he was teaching public speaking, he was using model examples, and one of them is Acres of Diamonds in the back of this book, which is like 2 for 1.
interesting. That's awesome. That's good. Okay, so we got Carol Nealons. Carol Nealons from Chatsworth, Ontario, Canada. All right,
Yeah,
Carol.
yeah.
I love it. I'm gonna have to look up where that is because I don't know. My Canadian geography, not good. All right.
I grew
Here,
I grew up in Canada, so I know Canada pretty
oh, you
well.
did? Okay, so you know where that is. Good. Well, that's good. That's why I got you on the live here, Brian. And then this is Ramona, Girlfriends Talking Podcast. All right. There you go. Sorry that you're about your dad, Ramona. That's a
No.
lot. Okay. Well, let's get going here. I'm going to hit the record button. We're broadcasting live, but we're going to record an episode of the Christian Podcaster. So, friends, if you have questions while we're talking and while we're going on, put them in the chat. Anywhere you are, wherever you are, just put them in the chat, and we will be able to address those, bring them up, and we'll address those as soon as we're done recording. So, all right, are you ready, Brian? I'm ready. I'm going to
I'm
do a little
ready. Let's
introduction,
go.
and I'll bring you in. Okay, I'm going to actually
Yeah.
do an introduction. We're going to go like this. Here we go. All right. Well, hey, friends, welcome back to the Christian Podcaster. As always, I'm your host, Eric Nevins, and this is the official podcast of the Christian Podcasters Association, where we try to connect Christian podcasters like you. We help you start, grow, and monetize your show. Grow it into that thing that God put into your heart. That's what we want to do. All right, friends, we have a really great conversation with you, and actually kind of an exciting announcement today that I wanted to share with you. We're going to do this, and I hope to invite you to something really exciting. So I kind of made a little Freudian slip there. I'll tell you all about it. Our guest today, he helps messengers like you and me, podcasters, entrepreneurs, authors, grow their income and impact online. And he's creating the Hope Story Conference. Here to talk about all of that today is our guest, Brian Dixon. Brian, welcome to the Christian Podcaster.
Eric, I'm so excited to be here with you.
I am excited to have you as well, and we've connected. We've kind of been acquaintances in the online world for a while. You were kind enough a couple of years ago to come to and speak at our Christian Podcast Summit in 2021. Do you
Yes.
remember
I
that?
laid down
So
some fire on that one.
you you did. It
I
was
cracked some eggs on that one.
it was fun, but you know what? I loved I loved the energy that you brought, so that's good.
Yeah.
And you're doing some cool things with the Hope Story Conference and Hope Writers. We're going to get into all of that. I want you to share about what what you're doing there. But first of all, tell us what the Hope Story Conference is, and then we'll kind of dive in from there.
I love it. So imagine a place where Christian writers, Christian speakers, and Christian podcasters are gathering together to meet, to encourage each other, to pray with each other, to worship together. We have a worship band. I'm so excited about that. To inspire each other to go out and share their message of hope with the world. See, I don't know about you, but as I look around this world, I'm like, the world needs more hope. Now we know that Jesus is the author of hope. We built our company on 1 Peter 3:15, which is always be ready to share the reason for the hope that you have. So we know the reason for the hope that we have is Jesus. But imagine authors and speakers and entrepreneurs and podcasters getting together
Yeah,
to inspire and encourage each other. That's what we're all about. And so we call that the Hope Story Conference because you have a story of hope to share. And we want to help you do that through education, through training, through inspiration, and through encouragement. And that's what the Hope Story Conference is all about. Meeting together, supporting with one another, and then going out and growing together.
yeah, I love that. Okay, it's coming up, right? So we're right now as we're recording this is
Once.
middle of what, November? And so then this is in 2 months. Is it like almost exactly
Yep.
2 months? Is it when's it happening?
64 days away.
Okay, you're keeping track because you got a
Yeah.
lot to do to get ready.
I'm so
Probably.
excited. Yeah,
I
we've
love it.
got amazing speakers, and it's gonna be fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. We're gonna go into a little bit more of that, but I want to go into background. But first, we're gonna make a little announcement here, right? So I'm excited. I get to come to the event. Do you want to talk about that?
100%. See, because I think right now where we are in the world is that people are overwhelmed by content. And what really breaks through right now is coaching. And so, as you and I started talking about it, we're like, what would it look like if we gathered together Christian podcasters in one place? So, check, that's awesome. Come to the conference, you can meet each other. But number two is if you had a chance to sit down with Eric to share about your podcast, where you are in your podcasting journey, and then got some advice and some feedback to grow. And I'm like, that would be awesome. So, that's what I'm most excited about for the Hope Story Conference. We have a podcasting track. So there's 8 interactive workshops and a keynote session just dedicated to
Mm,
podcasting. So you'll be able to meet other podcasters, but also writers and speakers as well. Because let's face it, you need guests for your show.
yep.
And maybe you thought about writing, and wouldn't it be great to go shoulder to shoulder and stand with some other people who want to share their message? But yeah, we decided to just make this such an easy yes by offering a significant discount just for
Yeah.
people watching this, just for members of the Christian Podcaster Association.
Yep, I love that. All right, friends, we're going to talk about that. So you're going to have to stay tuned to hear the
Yeah.
discount, and I'll give you all the details a little bit later. But yes, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be at the Hope Story Conference. Am doing coaching as part
Yes.
of the event. So you can get an appointment
Okay.
with me. I will sit down with you. Not only just questions that you have, but let's dive into your mindset, your message, all the things that you're working on, that maybe those roadblocks where you're like, I don't know if I want to be on social media. But okay, let's talk about that, right? Let's work on that stuff. And that's part of what I love to do with podcasters. So I get a chance. So Brian, thank you for having me at the
Of
event. We'll
course.
talk a little bit more about that. Coaching, I think, will be is kind of my favorite thing. All right. So I want to know, and I want to go back into your story just a little bit because I think it would be helpful to hear some of that. Like I when I see you online, you're an apologist for hope, right? So was hope
Yes.
always your thing, or where did this come from?
Oh, that's such a good question. I am a perpetual optimist. And I think that as a kid of the king, that's our goal. Like that's our job. It's just to be excited about God's word, God's work, God's ways. Like look at what God's doing in the world. And I think that we are optimistic people by nature because we're holding on to a hope of things we haven't seen yet. Like that is the basic gospel is for the joy set before him Jesus endured the cross. So we have to believe in the joy set before us, and we know the joy for us is the hope of eternity, right? Not just sanctification in the moment, not just cleansing of our sinful ways and where we are, because even Paul talks about how the things I want to do I don't do, and the things I don't want to do I do.
Yep.
So like I mess up every single day. I've messed up in this call already, right? Like I mess up all the time. But I'm looking forward to the day of Christ's return, to eternity. And I think that we have such an opportunity as podcasters to share a message for free. I've always been a technology guy. Like I was in a band in high school, and we were trying to figure out how to record our album on a 4-track recorder and how
Oh
to
yeah.
get our photos developed in the dark room at my high school. Like I've always been into the technology, even
Yeah.
though it
Yeah.
was pretty archaic now. But the reason I've always loved technology is because technology is the Romans road of today. It's the way we share the
Yes.
message of hope. And I believe that podcasting, think about the power, right? Podcasting, putting somebody's voice in your eardrums, like inside your ears, that you can listen to this person for hours on end, apologize, right? Like make an argument
Yeah.
for truth and for the gospel in today's culture. It's an incredible opportunity for evangelism, for encouragement, for exhortation. And so that's why I love what you do. I love the work that you do. And I love
Yep.
Christian podcasters.
Well, I totally agree. I sometimes say that podcasting is the way the gospel goes out in the 21st century.
Yes.
I just think it's why I do what I do. I just want every one of you who are watching or listening to this right now, if you have a podcast or you're sharing content online, just you have the ability to, I say, bring the gospel to bear on on your niche, right? Whatever your niche is. So I always, my favorite example is Paula Chamberlain, who is the sweetest spirit. She has a quilting podcast, right? And
Wow.
she brings the gospel to bear on that. Marcus Watson has a leadership podcast for how do you lead from the inside out, right? He brings the gospel to bear to pastors. I love it, and I think that's so powerful. There is absolutely something there. All right, so I want to hear, because you're doing something interesting also with
Mhm.
Hope Writers and kind of the whole Hope Media, what you're up to with that. Start the beginning and kind of take me through your vision and how that all goes for you.
Oh, absolutely. I think that, I truly believe this with everything I've got, is that you were knitted in your mother's womb. You were called according to it. You were born for such a time as this and called according to a purpose. So I think we start with, how was I designed? How was I made? Because God knitted you, right? That's it. Like the Bible says, you're his poem, you're his
Yeah.
workmanship, created to do good works. And so you look at where our world is today and you go, oh my goodness, we have an opportunity to share the hope that we have for free on the internet, and using high quality microphones and video technology and lighting and high speed internet. It's absolutely incredible. And so I look at it and I say, how can I be the best steward of the limited time God's given me? Part of my origin story is I was in a life-changing car accident when I was 18 years old. I got T-boned on an icy road in the middle of nowhere, Canada. I had
Wow.
3 doctors tell me I would never walk again. They actually had to use the jaws of life to pull me out of the car. I was trapped in the car. I broke my hip and my pelvis in 26 places.
Wow.
And so I was told, you're lucky to be alive and you'll never walk again. Well, number one, I've run marathons and triathlons, so they were wrong. But number two is, this is all borrowed time. Like God gave me a
Mm,
second chance. Brian died when he was 18. The old me, metaphorically passed away. The new me is here to look at my hands and ask, like, how can I use these for you, Lord? And so I'm just blessed enough to be alive in 2023. And so are
yeah.
you. And so here we are with zero excuse, 168 hours in a week, asking, Lord, how do I use this? And I think the shift that we all need to make is from consumers to producers, to realize that when we give an account to our Savior, which I believe the Bible teaches, we'll one day give an account for the way that we lived. For us to say, listen, I binge watched all these seasons of these shows, or I created my own shows. To flip the script on, am I going to consume or am I going to create? And I think, God's our perfect example, right? Jesus lived the perfect life. He created, he was the word. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm all about, is inspiring Christian messengers, what we call hope messengers, to discover your message, to share your message. And then we even believe in publishing, to publish your message, because there's nothing quite like a book that lives on way beyond us. If you think about the Bible, I mean, it's been around a while. The book that you can write,
Right.
yeah, think it lives on. My great grandmother-in-law, my wife's great grandmother, wrote about a 24-page book. And that's the one thing that lives on from their generation. The only thing we have is
Wow.
we have a property up in Canada that they bought. So we still have the property and we have her book. That's it. Like, there's no pictures. It's just the book. And it's like, think about the power of sharing your message. Proverbs talks about, a righteous man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. What better legacy to leave than to lead a messenger life and to share your message by sharing it in a podcast, writing a book? And so that's what we're about, helping you figure that out and actually make that happen.
Yeah. Brandon, I'm so interested in this. You said that you feel like you're on your borrowed time. Like, obviously you have an event like that.
Yes.
Did you feel
Yep.
that immediately, or did you feel like, did you grow into it? How did that dawn on you?
Okay. So we skidded onto the highway in Manitoba, Canada, in the middle of February. There was this freak rainstorm. It was icy roads, and I couldn't stop the car. And so I skidded onto the highway. I saw the other car coming at me at highway speed. They couldn't stop either. I leaned to the middle of the car, and I closed my eyes and I clenched my fists. And I was like, okay, this is it. And boom. I mean,
Wow.
it was so loud. I still remember the sound of getting
Yeah.
hit by the car. I thought I would open my eyes and wake up in heaven. I mean, that's what I, grew up to believe. I accepted the Lord when I was 7 years old. I'm like, I'll wake up in heaven. Um, Instead, I woke up, or I didn't wake up. I just opened my eyes probably a couple of seconds later, and I saw my clenched fist, and I looked at them like, whoa, like so, like shocked that I'm not in my new body, And
Okay.
I did this. I slowly opened and closed my hands, and obviously I was in shock.
Right.
But I'm like
That's what I was.
looking at my hands. I'm like, oh, I have hands and they work. And then immediately there's this flood of emotion of like, I'm still alive and my hands work. And that night I literally wrote out a prayer called a life rededicated. And at that evening, at 18 years old, I rededicated my life to creativity and pursuing the Lord. Now, at the time, I thought it was with my band. I mean, I was literally in the car accident with my worship band on the way to lead our Bible college in a day of prayer. So
Sure.
I was already kind of in the creativity, mindset. But 2 years later, with all my dreams of making the band big, and we did everything, we toured and we did albums and everything, my band broke up. And so my dreams died because I put all of my hope in this band. And it was only then that the Lord really helped me see it. It was an idol in my life. And it wasn't the band, it
Mm.
was the idea of investing in others. And so that's when I became a teacher, and teaching led to helping others through social media, through writing their books.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. So, friends, here's something for you. Like you don't have to have been in a life threatening accident, right? Like
Right.
right where you so
I don't
because
recommend it.
don't do it. Yeah, no. But I love your point, Brian. That the reality is we all have the same amount of time
Mhm.
every day or every
Yeah.
in a day, right?
Yeah.
And we don't know how many of those we have, and so we have to do something with that. And are you being faithful to it? I think is the question that certainly I ask myself every day. Am I doing enough? What is enough, right? I think to
Yep.
love my kids, love my family, take care of them, and to help as many people as I can be the most like themselves in Christ as I possibly can. Okay.
I love
So
that.
for me that involves podcasting. For you it's writing and podcasting and entrepreneurs and I love all that.
Yep.
Okay. What happens though if we don't make the most of that? If we don't share our story, if we don't like
Yeah. You
what's at
want the gospel?
stake?
Yeah.
Well, I don't mean like theologically. I've
Yeah.
had all those discussions in my 20s. It's
Right.
okay. Other people can debate it now. But
Yeah.
like if we don't share it, I think we miss some opportunities to influence
Oh,
people, right?
yeah.
What
Oh, yeah.
like how do
It
you
depends
think
on how
about that?
you're motivated. I think that there's, in sort of basic marketing psychology, there's two theories, right? There's hope, there's fear of loss and hope of gain.
Hmm.
And so my dad's first generation Christian. He was saved at 17 years old. He was saved because of the fear of hell, and I think that's really valuable. Is like the fear of loss. Like, so how are we motivated? I think for me, I'm motivated by wasting time. I just don't want to waste time. But others are motivated by the impact that we can make, and so I think it's either one. But the stronger one generally is fear of loss. So ask yourself at the end of your life. I talk to my grandmother every Sunday. So I talked to her yesterday. She's 97 years old. Ask yourself at 97 years old, when you look back on your life's work, what's on the shelf? Like, what did you make? What did you create? So I think that's an inspirational way to think about it.
Hmm.
The other way to think about it is how many people are stuck right now, stuck in their marriage, stuck in their parenting, stuck in a job they hate, stuck in a commute, and think about all the people that are going to stay stuck if you don't press record. They're going to stay stuck if you don't publish your show.
Right.
And the interesting thing, I love the parable of the talents. It's one of my favorite teachings of Christ because he calls the servant who buried his talent, who didn't use his talent, he doesn't say, oh, good try or anything. He calls him wicked. And I'm like, wicked? Like, I'm actually wicked for not using my gifts that the Lord has entrusted with me. Like, he's given me something really amazing to use. And if I don't use it, like, it's called wicked. So I'm more motivated by that. Like, I just want to make the most, not out of fear, but out of the burden, right? Jesus saw the crowd. He saw them as sheep without a shepherd. He felt a burden for them. And I guess that's the question, right? Ask
Yeah.
yourself, who are you burdened for? My last book was called Start With Your People. Who are the people? Who are the people that you're burdened for? I
Yep.
was a school teacher. So for a long time, I was burdened seeing these other school teachers that couldn't figure out technology. And I was like, I can help them with technology. Like, think about, who are you burdened for? Is it discouraged pastor? Is it the overwhelmed mom? Is it the empty nesting grandma? Like, who is it you're burdened for? And then ask yourself, how can I help them today? How can I create something that will inspire,
Yeah.
encourage them today?
Yeah. Okay. So some of what you're saying is taking me back to a couple
Yep.
things. One
Yep.
is, for me, when I started starting podcasting, I felt like I hadn't done anything of any real note to anybody that was good for anybody. Sure, my family loved me, and that's
Mm.
good, and it's important. Don't want to dismiss that, but I didn't feel like I had really accomplished anything in particular that would last beyond me. Right now today, I don't have that same sort of angst, right? Because I feel like, hey, actually, I'm confident that CPA has helped many people, and halfway there has helped many people.
Yes.
But that took some intentional choices, right? It took me saying, I'm going to risk this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it. So this is the other thing that's brought me back to is, I don't know if you've read Dan Peek's book about the power of regret. Have you seen that yet?
Oh, so
Oh,
good.
so good. So he's got these four
Yeah.
different kinds of regret. One of them is boldness regrets, right? A lot of
Yeah.
people will regret not being bold,
That's
not
right.
taking a bold choice. And I
Yep.
think, so a lot of the people who are watching me are already podcasters or content creators in some way. But I think you probably have a next step, a next bold step. I've got one in my mind right now that
Yep.
I want to do, that I know I want to do, and I've wanted to do for a little bit, that I just haven't taken that step. But really, the in order to avoid having that risk, that of a boldness regret, you
Yeah.
have to step into it. You have to try it. You have to take that next
That's
step.
right. Face the fear, do it anyway.
That's right.
Do
Just
it.
go for it and see what
Yeah.
happens. It's
And
coming.
press
We'll
send.
see. That's right. Exactly. So you never.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, that's how I think you ended up in our online
Love it.
summit, because I was like, I think I'm just gonna message Brian and see what happens, and you were
Yeah.
like, let's do it. I said, okay.
Let's do it.
So
Yeah.
that's always good. All right. I think what's at stake is, you talked earlier about, we are God's workmanship, right? We are His poetry,
Yes.
His poema.
Yes. Yeah.
The last thing I want is to miss those things, is to not create all the things that God has created me to create, right?
Yeah. I
There's
love it.
something beautiful about a person. I call it finding yourself in Christ. If you can find yourself in
Yes.
Christ and be fully that person, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you see? You and I both are coaches. What do you see is the number one thing that people struggle with when it comes to sharing their message?
Oh my goodness. Well, I learned this from Sean from Think Media. It's like just press record. Like, we just got to press record. I think the first is just pressing record and putting out our first draft. Not necessarily like your first draft you're recording, but like your first episode. Just going from 0 to 1 is probably where people get stuck, because what we want it to be is perfect. We want to polish it until it's perfect, but I actually think you need to publish it before you can polish it. Like, you need
Yep.
to actually get it out of your head and interact with the market. And it's such a tragedy. I see this because we run a book publishing company called Hope Books. When somebody writes their book with zero audience feedback and zero audience interaction, and then they wait and then they announce their book, two bad things happen. Number one, they don't sell any copies because nobody even knows about it. But then number two is, they read it and they realize, whoa, it was too advanced, or it was too basic, or it just wasn't thinking about the reader. In Hope
Mm,
Writers, we talk about, you make the pivot from the writing for yourself to writing for your reader. And so I think one of the best things you can do is start testing, start sharing your message out there. Because if you think about it, like literally right now, I think I'll tell this personal story. There is a dad in our community who lost his life recently. I'll just share it that way. He lost his life recently. And I have a weekly prayer time with the dads in our community. And I invited him to our prayer time. And he was on my list. I invited him week after week after week. He wrote me back on a Thursday, and then he lost his life on a Saturday. He wrote me back 2 days before he passed away.
Wow.
Who knows the impact, right? Who knows the impact that little email that I awkwardly send every week, and I feel kind of bad about it, like, come pray with us. Who knows? I don't know. Jesus knows, God knows. And so
Yeah.
I just think about the urgency of now that is such a biblical teaching that our life is like a vapor. Make the most of every opportunity. Why? Because the days are evil. This is our opportunity that we have. And so I think the thing holding us back is our story that we tell. And the story is that my voice doesn't matter. But I think if you look at any story of Daniel or the boy with the loaves and fishes, like David, God makes a big deal out of little people. And
Yep.
and so you press and record and launching your show, it might just impact one person's life, and that's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Right. And I talk about that a lot with people when
Yeah,
we talk about audience size. Everybody wants to grow their audience, and I'm all for that. I want to help you do that for sure.
right.
Um,
I have a
but
different take on that.
go ahead.
Okay. Therefore, Hebrews 12. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a cloud of witnesses, in other words, we already have an audience.
Oh, I like that.
You already have an audience. My grandpa who passed away is in my audience. He's looking at my life and he's saying, go, Brian, go. That's Hebrews 12. That's biblical. We have the Apostle Paul is looking at my life, right? Like the saints who came before us are looking at our life and they're saying, this is your moment. And what does it say? Run the race, right? Throw off the
Yep.
things that entangle us. So shut down your Netflix, start up your podcasting microphone, and do it with perseverance. Don't quit, because you
Yeah.
got people watching you right now.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. That's great. That's a great reminder as well. I think we have to keep ourselves in perspective, right? There's a perspective of not just the people who listen or download our show, but
Yep.
also of church history, right? This is why I
Yes.
say when I do before I do a podcast episode with Halfway There, one thing I always pray is I ask God to put it in the right earbuds at the right time, because He knows all 8 billion people on the planet,
Yeah.
and whether that's in the next couple of weeks after we record it, a couple of years, maybe a couple of centuries. I don't know, right? You don't know
You
the
don't
kind
know.
of impact that your story could have. Okay, I love that. That's really important. So we have to take action. So when you talk to people, and maybe this is like Hope Writer stuff or just in your coaching, when you talk to
Yep.
people about what are the first 3 actions to do,
Yes.
like what do you recommend to people getting started sharing their message?
Yeah. I think number one is starting to share, and just getting through the awkwardness of pressing record. Like I mean, I'll be totally real with you. I don't like the sound of my own voice. Like my voice is about 2 octaves higher than I think it should be. Like I want to sound like The Rock, but
Yeah.
I sound like Mickey Mouse, and that's okay. But I think just pressing record is one of the hardest things. And so, what's the way to um, get used to it? Is just make it normal. Like just
Yeah.
make it part of your routine that you press record. So I generally, usually at the beginning of the year, I'll challenge people. I'll say, go live for 5. And it just means the
Mm.
first 5 days of the year, just go live on Facebook. Because once you get through 5 lives, 6 isn't that hard. So
Yep.
like, just do it. And, my friend Ruth Sukup says, do it scared. So I like that. Just do it scared. Just do it, because nobody's paying attention anyway. So
Right.
that's number one. And then number two is create your XYZ statement. In other words, like know who you're writing for, and it's generally you 3 years ago. So I love to go back to my Google Calendar, go back to my full focus planner, or go back to my my journal from 3 years ago, or even in prayer, and just say, Lord, what was I struggling with in 2020? That one's kind of easy, actually.
Right. Right.
You look back in your calendar and you go, who was I November 2020? What was I struggling with? And what have I learned in the last 3 years that I wish I knew then?
Yeah.
And you just talk about that. You just say, listen, for me, I bought out the other business partners in our company, rebuilt our team, went through the process of refocusing our mission around the gospel and really focusing around being bolder about our faith. I've learned a lot of lessons about being bold about your faith online in the last 3 years. That's stuff to share.
Yeah.
So who needs to hear that? Where are they stuck? Where are they stuck? And how can you help them move forward? So I think number one is record. Number two is figure out who your people are, and then number three is do it every day.
Yep.
The discipline of what we talk about in our family is don't break the chain. So I'll take out like my workout calendar. We're a Beachbody family, so we do like Beachbody video workouts. So I'll download the workout plan and I'll print it at Walgreens as a poster. And then I'll use a black Sharpie marker to cross off every day. And so today
Okay.
I'm on day 14 of our new program. Well, guess what? If I do 14 in a row, I'm not going to skip day 15 because I don't want to break the
Right.
chain. So just
Yep.
don't break the chain. Just say, I'm going to do a show every Friday from now until Jesus comes home or comes back. It takes me home. And you probably won't. Like, you'll probably keep going.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. All right. As you guys can see, friends, Brian brings the fire. Like we started with that.
Let's go.
Absolutely. And you're going to be speaking, right? Of course, at
A couple times,
the
yeah.
Hope Story Conference. Tell everybody what they're going to experience if they decide to come to Hope Story Conference.
I'm so excited about this. I looked around and I didn't see a conference like this that was focused specifically on growing Christian messengers in the world. There's a lot of inspirational conferences that'll give you the big speakers, but you kind of leave with like a lot of inspiration, but not a lot of practical application. And I wanted to do it differently. So Hope Story is all about helping you discover your story. What is your message of hope? What have you been through in your life that is wasted unless you share it with somebody else? And that's the whole theme of the conference, is helping you figure out your message. If you already know your message, well, let's help you grow your message. But most people haven't really figured out their core message. So we're bringing in Lisa Turkers, which I'm so excited because, she's got such a powerful story, many
Oh, yeah.
powerful stories about discovering her message and sharing her hard story, especially her recent hard story. And so we're so excited to have her as one of our keynotes. We've got other keynote speakers talking about writing and speaking and podcasting. But the podcasting track at the Hope Story Conference is so practical. It's about getting your show off the ground, and it's about helping you grow your show. So that's what Hope Story Conference is all about. It's in January in Florida. So y'all that are not in the South, like, come to where it's warm for a couple of days in
Right.
January. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Okay. Yeah. I will tell you, like, that is one of the reasons I want to go too,
Yes, come
because
on.
I love
It's
getting out of,
Sarasota, Florida. It's beautiful.
Colorado, in January for sure. Melissa Hughes is going
Yeah.
to be speaking, right? She's in the
Yeah, she's
podcast
the
track.
best.
She's one of my friends.
Yeah.
Great on social as well. Okay, so by the way, friends, if you've never heard Lisa Turker's talk, you need to come because she is fantastic. I saw her. I spoke in the same room as her. Like, I was there, and then like an hour later, she was there. There's
Oh,
no
wow.
connection at all, but I stick around because I was like, I have to hear the way she knows her audience, right? She knows exactly who they are, exactly what they need, and she speaks into that. I would listen to her speak pretty much any time because I think it's going to be amazing.
She does these really intense focus groups for every book. My wife's been part of them. It's so
Yeah,
powerful. It's so powerful.
so
Yeah,
smart,
she's amazing. Yeah.
very smart. I love that. So if you want to learn from somebody like that, and you should, I would highly recommend it. Okay, so that's what people are going to experience. It's going to be great. It's going to be warm. That'll be nice too. Okay, so I love what you're doing, bringing people together, podcasters, writers, entrepreneurs as well. I think that's super smart because there's a symbiotic relationship with all of them, right?
Oh yeah.
If you're
You
if
need
you're
guests. You want to be on other shows. Like, you gotta meet people. So we got to get out from behind the microphone and, get on a plane or get in the car and go meet people. Some of the most life-changing relationships I have are because we had shared experiences. We went through something together, and I think there's nothing quite like being in the room together.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so let's tell people how they can get it. So the best way to do
Yeah.
it Oh, by the way, so then there's a special deal. I'll let you tell them about that
Special
in a second.
deal.
You go to hopestoryconference.com/podcasters.
That's right.
Hopestoryconference.com/podcasters. You can get that. I'm going to grab that link and I'll toss it in the chat here. You guys can get it, and then we can put it up on the screen. So you can absolutely do that. But tell people about this special deal that you're offering for CPA.
Oh yeah. Well, we wanted to make it just such a no-brainer to say yes. And I just believe so much in Christian podcasting. I think podcasting is such a powerful medium to share your message. And so we want you in the room. So we're doing 30% off right now, which is over $100 savings on the regular price ticket. It's a reasonably priced conference anyway, but I think it's just extra incentive. But you got to say yes before Thanksgiving. We decided to make this a pre-Thanksgiving special. Yep. So you get basically 10 days to sign up, grab your ticket, and then figure out the logistics. But we'd love to have you there. It's going to be an amazing time of connection. When I took over the company a year ago, one of the first things that we did is we hired a worship band to kick off our conference. And I got to tell you, I was so scared. I was so scared to be bold and say, you know what? We're not just going to be a conference, but we're going to lean into the Lord. And I got to tell you, it was so incredible to look around the room and see other entrepreneurs, other speakers, other podcasters, all worshiping the same God. And it's just so powerful. And so that's what I'm honestly, like, people ask me what I'm excited about for the conference. And yeah, Lisa Turkers is speaking there and we're going to have great workshops. But it's the idea that we're all gathered together, singing together and worshiping together. Like, it doesn't get any better than that.
Right. I love that. Okay, so there's a code, right? They got to use CPA.
That's right.
To
CPA.
Get that 30% discount.
So, yeah, for Christian Podcasters Association. So use the promo when you check out. Go to the coupon code or the promo code. Type in CPA, and you'll save 30% off. And again, it's only for a limited time, so make sure you take advantage of that today.
Yeah, absolutely. So 10 days, guys. I'm going to be promoting that, sharing it, but make sure you do it. If you're interested, if you've been inspired by what we said here, there's just going to be a lot more of that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You can always sign up for a session with me, right? So it'd be totally free. We'll meet each other in person. I'm excited. I'm really, Brian, I'm grateful for the opportunity to do that, because I think that's connecting podcasters in that way is exactly what I'd like to do. So
you think about the life-changing moments that we've all had. It wasn't a big keynote speaker. It wasn't even a workshop. It was something somebody said in the hall. It was something somebody said, I noticed this in you. And so, Eric, you're so amazing at that. That's why I'm so excited that you're doing these one-on-one sessions. Just to say, I noticed this, or the way that I say to my coaching is like, have you ever thought about, like, the thing that's obvious to you is magic to other people. So, like, what's the thing that you see in somebody that they can't see for themselves? And I think it requires having a conversation and being there in person. So we'd love to have you at the conference, at the Hope Story Conference. It's going to be absolutely amazing.
I love it. All right, guys, one more time, hopestoryconference.com/podcasters. Use the code CPA for 30% off your tickets. You can be there. I'm going to be there so we can meet in person. I think we're going to do a CPA meetup. Or we're going to do a podcasting meetup. I guess we'll work that out. That'll be a lot of fun, and we will get to connect there in a warm place in the middle of January. So that'll be great. Brian, thanks so much for being here, and I really do appreciate it. Stick around. We're gonna wrap this up, and we'll take a few questions. All right. Okay. All right. So that is a recording for Christian Podcaster, the Christian Podcaster. That's going to be out tomorrow on the feed. So friends, if you want to hear it, you can do that. We did have a few questions. If you have questions, we're still live. So if we have questions, go ahead and answer those. Let me see what else we got. I know somebody asked why Facebook Live versus uploading a pre-recorded video onto Facebook.
Oh, interactive, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Here's what I would say is, if you can get whatever gets you started, I don't care. Like, I don't care if it's live or if it's upload, if you're just recording it, if you're doing TikToks or if you're doing whatever. Getting started is far more important. But the live aspect, where we can ask these kind of questions, is great. The risk of not doing it live is you get in your head and you do like I did with my first few podcast episodes and re-record it about 12 times, right? And you're like, oh, I got to get that just right. And you're wasting time when you can really just get it out there and start learning right away. So,
yeah, if you know that you can edit it, then you're going to be tempted not to ever publish it. And this is true of writers. Like, this is what we deal with in our writing community, even with some of our authors with Hope Books, because you can continue to edit your chapters. It's so hard to say, here it goes. Like, it's live. And I think, I grew up playing live music, and I think there's something so powerful about being in the moment with real audience members, interacting with them. Some of the best things I ever say, like, it happens on stage, like in a in a podcast, or while I'm speaking from stage. And I think the same thing is true of you. Like, you just got to go live and get it out there, because you got real people. And here's the thing, you're going to feel inside of you the pressure to want to serve them well. So you're going to push through the mental barriers and the roadblocks so that you can share your message.
Yep. Okay. This is Cindy, and she wants to know, Brian, what do you think about exclusively guesting on podcasts?
It's one of my favorite things to do. Yeah, we don't actually currently have a podcast that I produce. I have several archive podcasts. We're launching a new one that we're just talking about, which I'm so excited. We've been workshopping it, so hopefully we announce it, in the next couple of months at the conference. But yeah, especially for book sales and for getting your message out there, the way that I think about it is, imagine that somebody else has created a stage. I'm stealing some of this from Pete Vargas, because I'm this kind of from him, that your podcast is kind of like a stage, and they've gathered together a group of people, and they've kind of warmed them up, and now they've got an empty seat for you, and they're inviting you up onto their stage, whether they have 10 people in the audience or 1,000 people or more in the audience. And you can kind of go from stage to stage to stage, sharing your message with a new audience. And some of those people in that audience are going to come back and follow you. I think it's a two-pronged approach. You go guest on other people's shows, and then you invite them to come listen to your show. So I think it's not either or, but I think it's both and.
Yeah, that's good. I really love podcast guesting for promoting a book. Obviously, that's a good thing, and we help people do that at CPA. We have a whole podcast tour aspect of what we do. But I will also say, the reason to create your own show is because it's a tremendous networking device. And I think that is probably underrated as one of the benefits of podcasting. There's not too many. There's maybe some levels of government that I can't reach, but for the most part, I think I could get almost anybody on my podcast these days. If I just make the ask and be patient.
Yes.
You can network with the people that you want to know. I mean, I've had some of the people like I don't know if I ever told you the story, Brian, but Os Guinness had a significant impact on my life. I was reading one of his books, and it changed. My thought process changed, and it sent me from one thing to another. And podcasting was kind of the avenue for that. I got a chance to interview him twice, right, for my show, which I don't think ever would have happened if I hadn't had the podcast. So that there's a lot of good reasons to.
Oh yeah, it's your stage. Yeah, your podcast is a stage, and speakers are looking for stages, and authors are looking for stages. I love John Acuff. I've tried to have a conversation with John for years, and it wasn't until his book Soundtracks came out that he finally came on our stage in our membership community, Hope Writers. We had literally been asking John for 2 years to be a guest at Hope Writers, and then he had a new book coming out. And we reached out to his PR team. We're like, we'd love to interview John for his book. And they're like, okay. And then all of a sudden he was on our calendar. It was like, what?
Nice.
Because he had to promote his content.
Exactly. Right. Okay. So also, that's a great book. Soundtracks is a great mindset book. Yeah. Loved it. So last year I was on a mindset kick, and The Power of Regret by Dan Pink and Soundtracks were both in that pantheon of books that I decided to kind of curate for myself. Mindset by Carol Dweck is the other one that you absolutely should check out. Okay. This is Lori again. I'm developing an evergreen training program that goes with a training guide. How long should the videos be? Ooh, do you have thoughts on that?
Oh yeah. Videos need to be as long as they need to be, but not any longer. I mean, it's a terrible answer, but I think that the shorter we can make videos, the more practical we can make them. Like, for example, in our communities, what we're doing is we're taking our hour-long interview videos, and then we're transcribing them through AI. So we're using AI to transcribe. Then we're taking the transcription, throwing it through another AI tool. Maybe one day those will be all one tool. And we're saying, summarize this. And then we're finding the summary. And then we're re-recording the intro, and then just using the 5-minute punchy, meaty clip from the interview. And then we're doing re-recording the outro. And then we're saying, hey, if you want to watch the whole thing, you can go over here. The reason for that, I think, is people want practicality. They want action steps, and so I think you can do a combination of both where you can record the long form content, but then you can splice it up into short bite-sized pieces that are actionable for people.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a balance. It really sometimes it
Yeah.
depends on your people. All right, this is Sue Donaldson. She said I've had both of you on mine, so great. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. Good to
Yeah.
I
She's
love
great.
Sue. Let's see. Any suggestions on how to grow your audience? Been slow on growing. I've got lots of suggestions. This is
Oh,
Jeffrey,
so
but
many.
what do you give us one or two things, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I think number one, starting with who is your audience, clearly defining them. Too many people say, "I want to help women." Well, great. There's a lot of women out there in the world. So, who specifically are they? So, number one, who are they? Number two, what is a tangible problem that you can solve? The reason your audience isn't growing is because you're not solving a problem.
Yep.
So, one of my clients, Jessica Turner, she's a blogger, mom creative. She and I were working together a few years ago, and the solar eclipse, I don't know if you remember, there was a major eclipse that happened, and everybody stopped everything they were doing to go watch this eclipse, and they ran out of all those eclipse glasses. So she created a free download of like a crafty way to see the eclipse, and she had, I think it was 28,000 downloads in 1 or 2 days,
Wow.
because people wanted the eclipse glasses and they were all sold out. And the reason it worked for her and she grew her audience like in 2 days is because she solved a real problem. So ask yourself, who is the specific person and what's the tangible specific problem they have? And it's way deeper and way more niche than you think it is. So
Yep.
something like 5 words to never say to your husband. That's a powerful download, or like get as specific as possible instead of being so vanilla. Be mudslide Tillamook ice cream. Like, don't be vanilla, but be so niche that only a couple people who know love it.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. Um, I have so many thoughts when I teach this. I'm going to give you this real briefly. There's 5 basic things that I think you should do. What you're talking about, Brian, I absolutely agree. You have to know your message, know who you're talking to, know what you're offering them, why they should listen, and then the transformation, like what you help
Yeah.
them do, and then the transformation that they're going to get for sure. For marketing, I would say have an email list, be on social media, be a guest, be a guest yourself, have great guests, continually
Yep.
be raising that bar, and
Yep.
then start a community, because one of the best things about the internet, I know we all complain about social or whatever and kind of the tenor, but I think Christian Podcasters Association is proof it doesn't have to be that way. You can
Yep.
be in there, you can be together, and have a respectful and interesting what am I
Yeah.
looking for? Interesting kind of place where
Engage.
you can
Yeah.
conversation. That's the word I'm looking for. Okay,
That's right.
so
That's right.
that is so good. There's advanced strategies too, but those are the basic ones. I wanted to answer this one last question, Brian, and then I
Yep.
will let you
Awesome.
go. Carol says I have slow internet here, but I would love to start a podcast. I can get Starlink, but I worry that it'll cut out on me in the middle of going live.
You
What?
just don't go live.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't go live. Just record it.
There you go. Or yeah, just have the conversation. Just get started and see what happens. Right? There's a lot of
Yeah.
people who use Starlink all over the world.
Well, the thing is, so one of my former clients was a pastor in Minot, North Dakota, wherever Minot is, somewhere
Oh
in the
yeah.
Dakotas, and he's like, oh, I can't be Craig Rochelle, I can't be Stephen Furtick, I can't be Carrie Newhoff.
Mm.
Like, he had all these limiting beliefs, and I said, I want you to, and his window was behind him with the blinds closed, and I said, I want you to open your window. So he flicked the blinds open, and I looked behind him, and literally there was snow for miles behind him in his window. And I was like, what Stephen Furtick does not have right now is snow for miles. Like, what you discount, right? The stone the builders threw away became the cornerstone. Your unique advantage is your uniqueness. The fact that you have slow internet could be an advantage. So go have conversations with people in your local coffee
Yep.
shop, record it, and then slowly upload it. You don't have to do it like everybody else. In fact, look at what is right in front of you and use the tools that you have right in front of you.
Yep, that's it. Okay. So to that one last thing. This is Jennifer. She says, "How do you narrow down your audience when it's men and women of all ages, races, face, but the commonality
Pick
is an
one.
experience?" So I don't know if you know Jennifer, but I know her and her
Yeah.
story. And she helps people who are, I forget what it stands for. Jennifer, Caddy is cause accidental death and injury, right? So I think you're specific, in my opinion, enough. Probably like you're
Mm.
dealing with people, men and women, young and old, who already have one common experience together. Would be my guess, but maybe there's some that you speak to better, like than others. So you can always narrow that down, also possibly.
Yeah, figure out where they hang out, figure out where they hang out. So what are other sites they go to? What are things that they're searching for? So the way that I teach it is there's demographics and there's psychographics. So
Right.
that you can have multiple demographics, but they all have the same psychographic. And so just think about what's the psychology, what's the
Yeah.
pain that they're all experiencing. You still have to be niche in the pain. And then if you pick out your niche pain, then you ask yourself, well, who's experiencing it? And then maybe go one layer deep and layer a psychographic and a demographic. And if it's too niche, then you can always come up a little bit and add
Yep.
women or add men or add one more psychographic if you need to.
Yep, absolutely. All right. I love it. Brian, thanks again for being here. I'm going to put this on the screen one more time. It
Awesome. Good luck
is
to see you guys.
hopestoryconference.com/podcasters. Make sure you use the code CPA to get that 30% discount. And we'd love to see you there. I can't wait. Brian, thanks a lot for doing this. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Eric. This was
We'll see.
awesome.